Welcome to the While You Were Working podcast, presented by Rogue Marketing. When you're responsible for revenue, it's hard to look up from the work. But while you're doing your day job, the market shifts. While You Were Working is where we turn today's trends into tomorrow's strategies. Welcome to While You Were Working.
Welcome to While You Were Working, the podcast for revenue accountable business leaders wanting to stay ahead of the curve. I'm Chip Rosales, managing partner of Rogue Marketing. Rogue is a strategic marketing agency that helps clients defend their marketing spend. We're business builders who carry a marketing toolbox, and we're so glad you're joining us. You know, it's hard to keep up with the trends and insights shaping business when you're busy driving growth. That's why we regularly sit down with revenue accountable leaders, unpacking their experience and sharing actionable insights. The world moves fast while you're working, and today's guest is at the forefront of growing revenue in the highly competitive automation and supply chain operations space. I'm joined today by Armando Gonzalez. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at Quicktron Robotics, where they're using AI and automation to transform supply chains internationally. You know, one of the things I was so excited to get you on this podcast because the world is talking a lot about robots. You hear robots are going to take over and robots, right? But you're actually in a space that's actually literally using robots. So I'm really, really glad you're here. How would you describe what Quicktron does?
Quicktron really makes jobs easier, right? The North American or the National Association for Manufacturing is projecting a employee shortfall of about 2.1 million by 2030. That's basically saying that we're missing people to do the work that we need for you and I to consume products. How are we going to address that gap? We've got an aging population that's transitioning into retirement, and we're not producing as many babies as we have historically. So robots help address that. So there's a misconception that robots are here for your jobs, but quite frankly, they're here to help your jobs.
Tell me a little bit about how they're actually operating in your world. What kinds of things are they helping to do?
They're really focusing on a lot of the mundane tasks, right? You go into a warehouse or a manufacturing site and you see a lot of these employees walking miles a day, handling heavy equipment, heavy material, transferring from one end of the facility to the other, right? On top of that, they're also having to do a lot of their higher complex work. So it's exhausting. So what these robots are doing is that they're kind of like a companion. They help you do your job. So that's really making the life environment for somebody working in a warehouse or a manufacturing space easier. Better.
Revenue Officer at Quicktron Robotics. I know it's a relatively new position for you. What kinds of things are you working on and how did you get to that position?
Yeah, so even coming out of college, right? We both went to UT. I came out of college, hook 'em, right? I got into a sales role in the automation space. This is in the early 2000s. So I got to see a lot on how things were made. That was exciting. That was fun. But what I really enjoyed the most was helping develop people, sales teams, develop strategy, help customers gain the knowledge and understanding of our business to help improve theirs. So with that, I mean, I came to like to see how my team members would progress and succeed, which got me into the roles that I've been in the past, which is leading sales teams and helping multinational customers come to the North American market and help adapt to the market and grow and scale.
I think I read some content of yours that said something like, that it's just an undertapped market, this North American thing. So what are you doing to fix that?
A lot of it is just helping our customers understand how this technology works, right? There's a lot of misconceptions, particularly being an Asian-based manufacturer. It's really proving what we can do to gain their confidence, to gain their trust, and then executing on that.
So let's talk about that. What are you thinking about and how are you making that introduction into this market?
One is uncovering customers' pain points, uncovering their business needs without them even really understanding that, hey, that is a potential need. For instance, we're helping a company that's outgrown their current facility.
Okay.
So they have to make a critical business decision, whether to renew their existing lease or help them relocate to another site that is expandable, will grow along with them. And at Quicktron, that's what our solutions are really geared to.
Okay, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And those are all the right terms for 2025, 2026. We were talking a little bit earlier about, robots and just, taking their jobs or whatever. And I think you've really tried to reestablish what that is. You've been arguing that the market is going so fast that it's not really about robots at all. What is it about?
It's about survival. Really, no. I mean,
that's kind of scary with the whole robot conversation.
Yeah. I mean, these robots.
What is it about?
These robots are built to do a lot of these simple tasks. You see Elon Musk showing off his developments, and he has a vision, right? That you're gonna have this Ruby-like robot at your home, helping you do the dishes, fold your laundry, pick up after your kids. That's his vision, but currently the technology isn't quite there yet. We need that technology right now in manufacturing to help address the tasks that our customers can't find the people to perform it, right? So at this point, it's either you don't invest or you don't perform the work.
Yeah.
Right. So companies are really past that. Hey, I want to test this at my site first before I roll it out. Now they're seeing a lot of their competitors moving in this direction, making those key investments, and they want to say, hey, how can we move quicker?
Well, I was thinking about supply chain. We don't always talk about supply. I mean, maybe in a academic world, or just when we're talking shop, you might talk supply chain, but not normally something that everybody's talking about unless we're in a pandemic or it's the holidays. And we happen to be in the holidays. And so I'm wondering, what kinds of things does Quicktron have, or what solutions are out there that help on the supply chain and are really helping to move that along here when you're thinking about the holidays?
Yeah, like third-party logistics suppliers, right? We call them 3PLs in our space. They typically have to expand their workforce during the peak seasons, which usually start around September, October. This is when they're planning for the big Black Friday holiday season. But these workers are typically temporary. Once that peak season's over, they scale back, but then they have to go through this whole process again next year.
Right.
So what our technology allows them to do is build and expand on their needs for that season, and also allow them to scale back when maybe they're more on their down seasons.
It makes a lot of sense. We spend a lot of time at Rogue talking about vocabulary and this idea that sometimes we may be saying the same words, but we don't necessarily mean the same thing. And then as I think about how fast the market moves, what something meant a couple of years ago isn't what it means right now. So I'm curious about the word automation. We've used that a lot. This automation word, what's different about automation in today versus what it was 2 years ago? How are you seeing those changes?
Well, when I started with robotics, this was in about 2006, robots were very program heavy.
Okay.
Over the years, it's gotten much simpler and much quicker to where you're working more on like a GUI interface, where you can go in and select parameters versus actually have to build code. All that code is pre-built, right? So it helps you execute and implement these projects a lot quicker than you did back 10, 15 years ago.
Right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. We're seeing that a lot. What about the word ecosystems? Another great buzzword, right? And I've seen you actually personally write and talk about them a lot. What does that mean for you from your perspective? What is an ecosystem to Quicktron or to Armando?
Yeah, it's partnerships, right? We live and die by our partnerships, and it's not necessarily, hey, I'm going to sell this piece of machinery for you. It's no, let's collaborate and find a use case that we can then present to customers that address the challenge. There's not necessarily anything in it for me per se as an organization, but creating that network where we can then share and learn about ideas, it allows those partners to come to you and ask questions as well. That helps us develop, the new technology in the future. At Quicktron, we invest pretty heavily in research and development. And a lot of these ideas we get from our ecosystem as well as our customers. to develop the new project or product that addresses a critical need for our customer.
Things definitely moving fast. Are they moving fast enough, or do you think that we're moving fast enough for what the market needs?
I think we could always move faster, and I know our leadership wishes we could move faster. But every time you evaluate this technology, you have to vet it. Any CEO, any CFO needs to do their research to understand what's behind the organization, because it is still new technology. It's important to educate your customers on what they should expect.
How are you selling or telling that ROI story? Because I think that's a component of what you're talking about here. How is that? How are you selling that internally?
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to it. One is the people. Two is the safety, right? You're making your work environment better. Traditional material handling requires a lot of manual intervention. You're usually handling products, cases, totes, trays, push carts that are heavy. People get injured, right? So if you can make an environment safer and better for your people, there's a big use case to deploy it. But the other is your productivity. How quickly can you generate the order that I just processed through Amazon?
We needed it.
Expected in 24 hours.
Yes.
Right? So every one of our customers has that challenge. How can I do it? Traditionally, they've done it very, very manually, and it's slow. Now they could do multiples and multiples upon orders much quicker and have the visibility to understand where it is in the process.
How are you staying agile? How does Quicktron stay agile?
A lot of workshops, a lot of understanding what our current capabilities are within the organization, and trying to stick with things that we're good at.
I was even just thinking, a lot of the people I get the chance to sit and talk with, everybody's got a high purpose story. There's something they're doing. Their company is doing something in the world that's really making it a better place. And as you were talking, I started to get some of that. What do you think, Quicktron, or maybe even just you in your role, what are you doing that's purposeful in this world?
Yeah, I'm helping build people's dreams, right? I'm not just working with Fortune 500 companies, right? Massive multinationals. I'm working with small manufacturers in the local DFW market, right? In rural Arkansas. I'm helping them fulfill their dreams, because they built, they had an entrepreneurial spirit. They build this business, and now they see growth, they see opportunity, and I want to help them build on that.
How are the tools that you're involved with now, how are they helping you process work better?
You've seen a lot of adoption with AI tools that are now available. Things that would take us sometimes weeks to develop and procure, we're able to do in a day. There's a lot of great tools out there in the market that really companies can benefit from, to help them be more agile, to help them work quicker and deliver responses to their clients. It's made us a lot more quicker to respond, and made us a lot more efficient with our time.
All right. Well, I appreciate you so much for sharing any of the all your insights, bringing that here to our audience. I really, really appreciate that. I'm getting ready to do one of my very favorite parts of the show, because we call it Quick Takes. I'm just going to throw out a few business topics.
Sure.
And just looking for a gut reaction. You don't have to go too long on it. Just your quick thought, a gut reaction. So are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What's one thing you make sure to do every day as a leader?
Check out my team.
What about those tools? We were just talking about tools. What's your favorite tool to use?
Claude.
What's the greatest advice you were given as a CRO?
Trust but verify.
It's a really good one. How about the best way you found to build confidence with your leadership team?
To follow through on what you say you're going to do.
Very good. All right. So is there a trend you're tired of hearing about?
Robots taking my job, and people fearing the technology. The more you dig into it, you relieve some of the misconceptions, and you realize how helpful they're going to be for us in the future.
Well, last question. This is my very favorite one. Is there a book? Is there a podcast? Is there some sort of a resource that you just swear by?
I'm a bit of a futurist, right? So I like to use my imagination, and one of the books I love reading, and also with my son, was Ready Player One.
That's one of my favorites too.
Right. I happened to read it during COVID, which was kind of kind of interesting considering my kids are kind of living it, with remote schooling. But now seeing how they're engaging in video games, how they're communicating socially, it's pretty fascinating.
Do you like that show Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Very good. Well, man, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for making stop by, and I appreciate you sharing all those insights.
No, thanks, Chip.
Automation is much more than efficient machinery. It's a growth mindset shift. A recent Global X article from their Charting Disruption series captured that beautifully. Entitled A New Era in Automation, it argues we're entering the era of physical AI, where robots, sensors, and software merge to do more than automate individual tasks. They form systems that see, think, move, and act in real time across operations. And the economics are tipping fast. U.S. manufacturing wages, they've climbed to around $34 an hour, while the cost of robots and the software that powers them continues to fall. The chart you're seeing right now alone explains why automation has moved from nice to have to need to have. So what does that mean for revenue and marketing leaders? First, automation equals strategic growth, not just cost control. Global X is noting that industrial robot deployments reached more than 500,000 units last year, and that's double what we saw a decade ago. The market isn't asking if they'll automate anymore, it's asking how fast and how smart. And that's a signal for CROs. Build automation and your growth narrative, not your expense line. Second, today's robotics are software defined, not static. We've moved past rigid systems to modular plug-and-play platforms that can adapt and scale. That should sound familiar to anyone in the go-to-market leadership because your buyers, they want the same thing: agility, integration, and speed to value. So align your messaging around automation orchestration instead of robotics deployment. And third, the winners will show how automation elevates people. Robots now handle repetitive and hazardous tasks, freeing humans for creativity, strategy, and leadership. That's a cue for marketing and sales teams. Frame automation as something that amplifies your culture and talent, not replaces it. So here's a new term. Welcome to this new industrial supercycle, where disruption isn't something to brace for, it's something to leverage. For CROs and marketing leaders, that's your challenge and opportunity. Use disruption to compound ROI through speed, flexibility, and it would appear better storytelling. All right, a link to this article is posted in the show notes. We'd also invite you to follow us on social media. Search Rogue Marketing on Facebook and X, or Rogue Marketing Agency on LinkedIn. We are regularly sharing insights and articles that you may have missed, while you were working. See you next time.